Good morning, everyone. Today we'll take a look at the third part of the discussion on the essay paper for 2020. To begin with this lecture over here, let me briefly take you back to the last couple of ones. The first class we took a look at the second essay topic from section B. Last class we looked at the third topic. Today's class we'll take a look at the fourth topic given over here, technology as the silent factor in international relations. Now, when you are looking at an essay, three basic rules you always keep in mind. Number one, understand the topic correctly. Number two, provide a consistent perspective on the topic. And number three, make the essay interesting to read and easy to understand. To take a look at them, this we've already recapped many times. To understand that, this is the topic given to us, technology as a silent factor in international relations. First thing that you do is understand the topic correctly. Now, in this case, there are just two terms that you need to pay attention to. First, technology. Second, international relations. There's not much that I need to do to explain these two terms, but yes, there are some features of these terms which you certainly must understand. For example, if I take a look at technology, it is important for you, let me just change the color here. It is important for you to understand and keep in mind while you're writing that technology fundamentally is a two-edged sword. When I use technology, whether it is within my country or whether it is in my relations with other nations, it can have a positive impact, it can have a negative impact. So when you're writing the essay, as far as possible, try to provide a balance, an equitable balance between both aspects of policy, of technology. And second, this impact of technology should be looked at in the perspective, in the prism of international relations. We are not interested in getting to know theoretical information or facts regarding international relations. We are not concerned with emerging technologies. More importantly, we are concerned with the correlation between the two, which is why number two, again, we always say, understand the meanings, identify the correlation between these two terms. How do you do that? Rephrase the essay topic as a question. In this case, for example, how does technology impact international relations? And the moment you try to answer this question, you will realize that the impact can be positive as well as negative, which is why this is the kind of essay topic where you do not give a yes or a no as an answer, where you don't agree or you disagree, but more importantly, you create a balance between the two opposing points of view. And fourth, this rephrasing as a question should help you understand what your perspective on the topic is. First, understand the topic correctly. Once you've understood the topic, number two, provide a consistent perspective on the topic. How do you do that? By creating a skeletal structure. In this case, three broad areas that we'll look through the essay. First, explain how technology can improve international relations. Second, explain how technology can adversely affect international relations. And third, highlight more importantly, how technology is becoming a vital factor in shaping international relations. Students often ask that when we are writing an essay, what kind of examples should we give? To give examples, understand that there are two kinds of effects that will fetch you marks: recency or primacy. Primacy means that the example that you're giving should be so fundamental to the topic that it becomes very easy to understand what you're trying to convey. A very fundamental, a very rudimentary example. But here when we say highlight how it is becoming a vital factor, we are talking more about the recency effect. Your example becomes very relatable if it talks about something that happened in recent times, something that is still fresh in public memories, and something which helps the reader connect with whatever it is that you're saying about the topic. So here, most importantly, take a look at how technology increasingly is changing the way that we live, is changing the way that international relations are affected or are conducted. First, understand the topic correctly. Second, provide a consistent perspective on the topic. And third, make the essay interesting to read, easy to understand. Use anecdotes, use examples, use data, use facts, provide different perspectives on the topic that is being discussed, so on and so forth. These again, we've looked at in the past, so I won't spend much time here. Now, writing the essay again, three simple sections: introduction 152 to 200 words, body paragraphs at least 5 paragraphs about 120-150 words in length, which means all you have to do, don't go too deep into the topic. All you have to do is look at different perspectives and consider them or mention them briefly while you're writing your answer. And third, the conclusion. Again, leave the examiner with a favorable impact. 100 words is enough. You want to stretch it, 120, 150 also would be permissible. Now, looking at this topic a little more specifically, first we start with the content for the introduction and the conclusion. To look at this content, the topic said technology as a silent factor in international relations. So any piece, and now please focus on this a little more carefully, any piece of writing that you're putting in over here must emphasize, number one, the role of technology, and number two, the impact of this technology in shaping international relations. I know that when students write their essay, many of them will focus on technology. They will tell us about technological advancements, but will not connect them to how they affect international relations. Many students will look at international relations, but may ignore the element of technology. For example, many students may write that India exited from the RECP. Despite many members wanting India to rejoin, India remains reluctant. That is a good point. That is a very recent example. Problem is, where is the element or the angle of technology? How is technology leading to these changes in international relations or these changing international equations? Unless and until you can highlight these 2 points, the data that you're sharing will not count for much. Which is why any example, fact, data that you're giving, please ensure that it connects these 2 elements that we're giving you over here. Now, for the introduction, for the conclusion, there are many pieces of data, there are many facts that you can use. How does technology affect international relations? For example, the first one, it was the discovery of nuclear fission in 1938 that made the development of an atomic bomb possible. That is a technological innovation which makes an atomic bomb possible. The manufacture of this bomb, the use of this bomb, accelerated the end of the Second World War. Without the Second World War, without the atomic bomb, the Second World War may have continued for a very long time. Japan may not have surrendered for a very long time to come. Human casualties could have been very high. The Axis powers could have been able to challenge the Allied powers for a much longer time. But it was this technological advancement which ensured the victory of the Allied powers, and for the next couple of decades, even the hegemony of these Allied powers. And from here, what I told you in the very first class, a very good strategy to emphasize that you understand the topic correctly. At the end of your introduction, very simply rephrase, repeat the topic. Because nuclear fission enabled the development of the atomic bomb, which accelerated the end of the Second World War, we can say that technology is a silent but very powerful factor in international relations. If you don't remember this example, another one, in the 70s, India's pro-Soviet inclination was deeply embedded in the fact that they were the ones who were giving us technical assistance. Whether it was military assistance, whether it was assistance in the field of agriculture, it is the Soviets, it was Russia who was giving us that. You do not remember this? Then come to our 2 neighbors, China and Pakistan. What started largely as a geopolitical alliance very soon started transforming into a military economic alliance between the 2 countries. Why? Because China was willing to provide nuclear know-how, nuclear technology to Pakistan. Again emphasizing how technology is a powerful factor in international relations. You do not remember this? You want to take a more recent example? Change the example yet again. If you take a look at it in the times that we are living in 2020, 2021, here you can pick up the example from COVID diplomacy. And one of the front runners in this COVID diplomacy is our country, which is India. India produces 60% of the world's vaccines at any given point in time. For COVID vaccines specifically, we are the second largest manufacturer of the vaccine. At the moment, we have already supplied 23 million doses of the vaccine to 14 different countries. And India has intentions of supplying to 49 nations in total under the Vaccine Maitri program, the Vaccine Friendship program. In this case, what is the advantage? That we've earned global praise, we've increased our soft power, and we've, at the moment at least, gained an edge over China. Again emphasizing how technology may be a silent but a very powerful factor in shaping international relations, for better or for worse. The lack of technology with China gives India an advantage. The presence of that technology in India gives India an advantage over China, and so on. First, the introduction, a small fact, a small piece of information, a small anecdote example. End the introduction by rephrasing the topic again. Second, what have you done here? Here, essentially, all that you've done is told the examiner, told the reader that you have a correct understanding of the topic. After this, you start with your body paragraphs. And you start with your body paragraphs, and in your first body paragraph, always explain how the different terms of the topic are correlated. Here we had only two terms to bother about: technology and international relations. So what do you write? You write that the correlation between technology and international relations is not new. Ever since the time of primitive societies, foreign policy options, foreign policy opportunities have always been influenced by the nature of technology. The technology that is available for transportation, technology that is available for production, technology that is available for communication, for warfare, and so on and so forth. To give an example of this, take the example from here. In the past, if you consider the world, let's say about 100 or maybe even 200 years back, the factors that were essential for a country to become an imperial power, to dominate over other countries, were factors such as naval superiority, the telegraph, railways, vaccines, weapons, automobiles, and so on. Countries which had an advantage in these kind of technologies had an advantage in governing or ruling over other countries. Which is why we say that even since the time of primitive societies, technology had a very powerful role to play in shaping international relations. And of course, we know that if you have access to technology, this will increase your power. If you share that technology, this will increase your allies. The more you share that technology with other nations, the more friends, the more allies you're capable of building. And this has been going on ever since history exists. In more recent times, technological changes have stimulated the increase of economic interdependence. They facilitated the rise of multinational corporations. They have led to the integration of societies and of cultures. Cross-cultural learnings, cross-cultural comparative cultural learnings have increased because of the presence of technology. But at the same time, you must understand that these changes affect security perceptions. They affect economic balances. They affect the balance of trade. They affect political stability, and so on. Which is why any such technological changes can either strengthen or they can erode a nation's independence and the nation's sovereignty. Again emphasizing the fact that technology may be a very silent, may be a very unrecognized, a very hidden aspect, but is a very powerful factor in shaping international relations. First paragraph, you gave an introduction to explain the correlation. First body paragraph, you explain the correlation more directly, establishing the tone, the direction of your essay. After you have done this, now you must give at least 5. You have 1000 to 1200 words to write, at least 5 distinct body paragraphs. Each of these paragraphs must have a different perspective, a different dimension. Each of these paragraphs must present a coherent argument with regard to the concerns, with regard to the possible solutions for those concerns. And each of these paragraphs must substantiate the argument that you're making with appropriate facts, data, examples, and so on. Without delay, in this case, 5 paragraphs at least you should write, for example, and different perspectives in each of them. Technology and international relations we are talking about, so but naturally, one of the fundamental, foremost things that you can write about is defense. In the area of defense, what is the role of technology? Technology strengthens the hard power, not soft power, but hard power of a nation. Sharing this technology may increase your soft power, but by itself, it will strengthen your hard power. For example, through the development of drones, through the development of smart weapons, through the development of missile guidance systems, etc. any such technological advancement can be used for one of three things. Number one, it can be used to assert military might. Number two, it can be used for sharing with other nations. Or number three, it can be used as a deterrent. Problem, and that's why we are saying concern. Problem is that each of these uses also creates a possibility of a problem. We can say that any such technological advancements can be used to assert military might. Problem is that we or any nation which has this military might use these weapons to dominate over other nations to establish its hegemony. Any such nation may also use these weapons or technology to compromise the sovereignty of other countries. In this case, what recommendation do we give? In this case, we say that any such intention, the intention behind any such weapons, any such technology, should be protective rather than offensive. And what example can you quote over here? From our neighborhood itself, given Pakistan's geopolitical significance, given their geographical positioning, they've had a very important place in American foreign policy for a very long time. And yet, one major irritant in US-Pakistan relationships is the issue of drone strikes, especially in Pakistan's what is FATA? Federally administered tribal areas. They become a significant irritant. The Americans will justify these drone strikes by saying that they involve minimal casualties to their personnel while maximizing the possibility of taking out extremists, terrorists, militants, and so on. On the other hand, the Pakistanis, and correctly so, will claim that when drone strikes are used, the person who orders the strike works on the basis of pre-established parameters. These parameters are very few. They are not perfectly accurate, which is why civilian casualties, collateral damage may be fairly high. And what is the problem? That while you're asserting military might, at times it can also, the same technology may even impair your relations with an old ally. Similarly, number two, any such developments can be shared with other nations. But when you share it with other nations, there is always the possibility of misuse. So, to counter the misuse, what do we recommend? That you must have appropriate checks and balances in place. And to substantiate that, the same two countries we use as an example, in 2018, the Americans identified 7 Pakistani companies allegedly engaging in nuclear trade. As a result of the apprehensions of the fears that they generated, America suspended $350 million in military aid that it was planning to extend to Pakistan, and said that the suspension would remain in force till Pakistan ensured concerted efforts in countering terrorist organizations. And this, of course, came as a major blow for Pakistan's membership in the nuclear suppliers group. So, where we believe that sharing this technology with other nations may create the possibility of misuse, better checks and balances, and one small example here. Similarly, a lot of nations, including India for that matter, will say that we want these technologies not for any offense, but only to use as a deterrent, to create a credible deterrent. While the argument may be justified, the problem is that this can escalate an arms race. Where does this escalate an arms race? For example, India and Pakistan conducting nuclear tests in quick succession. India conducting them because of a very volatile neighborhood, Pakistan conducting them in direct response to India's nuclear tests. You cannot think of that. Another example, the US and USSR during the Cold War, one of the worst and the most volatile, I would say, arms races that the world has ever seen. Where we believe that this is a problem, what can we recommend? We can recommend that instead of using only weapons to provide a deterrent against each other, we can recommend information sharing and mutual dialogue. We can recommend the promotion of peaceful coexistence. For example, those same two opponents, the US and Russia, now have something called the New START doctrine. What is START? The Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, where both of them mutually commit to reduce the stockpile of nuclear weapons that they possess, the nuclear warheads that they possess. So, one paragraph taking a look at the perspective of defense. First, establish some concerns regarding the connection between technology and international relations. Second, for these concerns, give some recommendations or solutions. And third, for each of them, provide a small and a simple example. If you were writing only this much in your essay, even this would take up about 250 to 300 words. But your advantage is, from all this information, you just have to write between 120 to 150 words, which is comfortably possible if you can think of even one of these elements from all the ones that are given here. One dimension we can consider is defense. Another that we can consider is technology and international relations through the perspective of global trade. Now, what is the concern? The concern is that the use of technology increases specialization, increases productivity, increases efficiency, and so on. But most such advancements, most such technology invariably benefits developed nations more than developing or underdeveloped nations. And as such, it widens the gap between haves and have-nots. So here, what can we recommend? In fact, I'll come to the recommendation in a moment. Second, on similar lines, the control over technology, whether it is artificial intelligence, whether it is big data analytics, is usually concentrated with a few rich, powerful, traditionally prosperous nations. Third, more recently, access to feasible transportation and storage facilities for the COVID pandemic, specifically the COVID vaccine. Recommendation you can give over here: number one, use technology to improve the comparative advantage of less developed nations. What does this signify? Even if some rich and prosperous nations have an absolute advantage in certain areas and certain domains, the less developed nations, the less prosperous nations, can at least develop a comparative advantage. Why? Because for a richer, more prosperous nation, there will be a significant opportunity cost in pursuing, in following every business opportunity, every trade opportunity it gets. So here, use technology to improve the comparative advantage of lesser developed nations. How do you do that? Now, taking the concern and the recommendation here, for example, India leveraging its educated, English-speaking, young population along with the low wages that Indians usually command within our country. Leveraging these factors to gain a comparative advantage in the global IT sector. China did something similar in the manufacturing sector. If you want to increase the comparative advantage, second thing that you can do is the use, more recently, of blockchain technology. Why? Because if you wanted to address this imbalance between rich and poor nations, second thing we would recommend is the sharing of technology to create global markets and promote globally beneficial trade. For example, you can use blockchain technology to facilitate the movement of goods in global trade, especially when we consider e-commerce. No matter which economic system you belong to, no matter which part of the world we are talking about, enable and ensure smoother flow of goods and services by using blockchain technology, ensuring that there are no shortcomings, no lacunae in the movement of these goods. Similarly, and to facilitate that, in February 2021 itself, the Hudson Institute in the US in Washington said that better Indo-US relationships, better Indo-US relation trade ties would help counter the Chinese threat. They said this they published this report in February 2021. Almost at the same time, IBM and Tech Mahindra have collaborated to develop a $1 billion ecosystem, focusing on domains such as 5G, such as hybrid clouds, such as automation, cybersecurity, and so on. Where we are talking about access to feasible transport and storage facilities, very recently, I think this is just a couple of days back, Pfizer had said that their vaccines now do not necessarily need to be stored or transported with the very demanding conditions that were established just a few weeks back. Initially, when the Pfizer vaccine was rolled out, it was expected to be stored at minus 80 degrees centigrade. This made it difficult to transport the vaccine from one place to the other. This made it difficult to administer the vaccine, especially in developing, underdeveloped, or rural areas. But now, again, through better technology, since we are bringing this factor down to minus 25 degrees, it enables facilitates better distribution of the same vaccine in developing countries and rural areas. Again, focusing on the aspect of technology when it comes to trade in international relations. Another dimension that you can consider, defense we looked at, trade we looked at, another that you can consider is ICT and cyberspace. Now here, what is the concern that we face? First and the most common concern, the moment we use the word cyberspace, first and the most common concern is cyber terrorism. But that again becomes the use of a little bit of jargon. So to simplify that, we can say the misuse of technology to intervene in the domestic affairs of other nations. And an example that you can give over here is the very famous example from 2016 of Russian organizations, or at least Russian hackers, trying to influence, manipulating and influence the outcome of the 2016 US presidential election. Russian hackers made repeated attempts to disparage, to insult, to raise suspicions about Hillary Clinton, with the belief that Russia would benefit from a Trump administration in the White House. What are you doing? Essentially, you're misusing technology to intervene in the domestic affairs of other nations. Can technology affect international relations? The answer is it is a silent but a very powerful factor. For this, what do we recommend? We recommend better regulation, better control of cyber crimes, of cyber warfare even. Another example you can quote in this regard, the 2013 South Korea cyber attack. South Korea, one of the most developed nations in the world, unfortunately making it vulnerable to this kind of warfare. Similarly, the Russian electric grid, 2019 in fact, the Russians admitted that the electricity grid is and may be targeted by the Americans, and there's a possibility that if the attack escalates in scale, the entire grid could be collapsed. And again, what do we recommend? Regulation and control of cyber crimes. Second, and the second concern that we have, that technology sometimes is used to promote soft power, but at other times may even be used for censorship of critical information. Where any such concern arises, what do we recommend? That you use technology for facilitation, for enabling, not for suppression. And the example we give here is the example of net neutrality. China, Iran have been repeatedly accused of violating net neutrality. What is net neutrality principles? That any information on the internet in any form should be provided in an equitable and a fair manner. The provider, or in this case a nation, should not try to provide one set of information in larger and more economical terms as compared to others. Why does China violate these principles? By suppressing those news which are critical of its working and promoting those news which portray it in a positive light. And when this happens, why are they doing it? To promote their regimes and to avoid criticism. For this, what do we recommend? Again, should be used for facilitation, not suppression. Third dimension that we look at is digital money, the volatility that it has, and the urgent need for regulation. In this case, what do you recommend? Leverage the benefits of cryptocurrency, but also regulate it. What are the benefits of cryptocurrency? For example, one very famous form of cryptocurrency is Bitcoin. What is the benefit? There is no exchange rate that is involved, which facilitates equitable transactions. The payments are absolutely secured because the person who purchases or mines a Bitcoin cannot do that unless he has already paid the money upfront. Similarly, it enables faster payments, enables faster receipts. The taxes that are imposed are significantly lower and so on. And to give an example over here, we can talk about the advantages of Bitcoin and blockchain technology, which at the moment seem to have a tremendous potential for facilitating international trade in the years to come. And in the light of this, specifically for a country such as India, it is important to have regulation that is made in a judicious, in a prudent manner. We need a lot of caution in dealing with it, because this seems to be, at least at the moment, seems to be a very smooth facilitator of international trade in the future. And in 2021, we have in India the cryptocurrency and regulation of official digital currency bill. Now, with this bill, there are a lot of voices in the country which are recommending an altogether ban on cryptocurrencies. But that would be like saying that if the internet gives us services or gives us information which may be considered disturbing, may be considered seditious, may be considered as having a negative impact on our government, our political system, or our society, then we should ban the internet altogether. You do that and you're sending the country back by 3 to 4 decades. Which is why we would not recommend a banning of these currencies, but better and more forceful regulation. Third, the use or the relevance of international of technology in the field of ICT and cyberspace. Similarly, another dimension that you can consider is healthcare. I'll just come to this in a moment. See, the point over here is that when students look at it, of all the topics that had come this year, many students complained that this was a topic that was difficult. Technology introduced or came from the domain of science and technology. International relations was a different domain. And in writing the essay, you had to merge, you had to use both the domains simultaneously. It becomes, and many students again make that mistake, they focus only on technology or focus only on IR. In writing the essay, keep the structure simple, concern, recommendation, evidence, and use simple common knowledge, which almost anyone gains by reading the newspapers a little carefully. In the case of healthcare, for example, what is our concern? That first, healthcare is vital for the fulfillment of any government governance function, whether you want to maintain social order, whether you want to promote economic efficiency, whether you want social justice. Healthcare is extremely important to maintain the right quality of human capital. It is not just your humanitarian or compassionate duty, it is essential to maintain good governance. Concern, however, is that very often there are trans-border challenges that can undermine global stability. For example, a pandemic, as we've just seen very recently. Second, that there's a lack of medical research and knowledge in treatment, in facilities, and in medicines. And where there is a presence of this research, it invariably benefits some regions or some countries, not everyone equitably. So what recommendation do you give? The recommendation that you give is that we must have international cooperation to promote global health diplomacy. And second, that we must recognize, why should I care about global health diplomacy? If my citizens are well, why should I bother about what is happening in the rest of the world? I should bother about that because this is important in promoting soft power. This is important in building mutual trust. This is important for facilitating trade agreements and so on and so forth. If you consider India, for example, I'm sure there will be many people questioning the fact that when India has 135 crore people living in the country, why are we exporting even a single dose of the COVID vaccine to some other country? Because of the reasons given here. The use of technology in affecting and impacting international relations. And the examples you can give, again, India's COVID diplomacy, if you did not use it in the introduction. Second, India has recently proposed for South Asian cooperation for special visas for doctors and for nurses to facilitate the quick transfer across borders. We have also proposed, in fact, the Prime Minister said that we must have the facility of regional air ambulance for medical emergencies, medical contingencies. You're not aware of that? I'm sure you would at least be aware of terms such as medical tourism, telemedicine, sharing of innovations regarding artificial prosthetics, regarding nanomedicines and so on. The sharing of this kind of information or technology between two different nations again serves the same purpose. It builds mutual trust, it promotes your soft power, it facilitates easier not only trade but any form of agreement or treaty with other nations. A direct impact that technology has on international relations through the prism of healthcare. And another, at least 5 paragraphs you must have. So another element that you can add over here is technology and international relations through the perspective of climate change. For climate change, what is our concern? Our concern is that industrial activity in the recent decades has led to a steep increase in greenhouse gas emissions. Anthropogenic, what is anthropogenic? Human-made or man-made. Human changes have accelerated global warming, and pollution in many different forms is rising across the world, whether it is air pollution, whether it is water pollution and so on. Second concern, the adverse effects of these factors, greenhouse gases, of more emissions, of use of fossil fuels, are more serious for populous and developing nations. And India, unfortunately, falls in both categories. The resultant stresses that emerge from these challenges in the future are expected to even lead or even become a primary cause for war. There's a lot of, for example, traction in the statement that the next war may even be fought for water. because we're not managing our resources well enough. Third, that renewable energy options, while available at the moment, are expensive because there's a lack of investment and there's a lack of research in developing them further. Where we have these concerns, what recommendation do we give? First recommendation that we give is that you reduce the dependence on fossil fuels for electricity and transportation and explore alternative sources of energy. In this regard, the example that you can give is the Paris Agreement from 2015. The Paris Agreement has committed nations to maintain or to achieve the objective of maintaining an increase in global average temperatures below 2 degrees centigrade. It urges developed countries to promote, to facilitate, to finance the transfer of climate technologies to other nations. Why are we doing this? Because these technologies, when widely shared, widely diffused, have the potential of improving resilience to climate change and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. What are we doing? Using international relations, or using technology to improve international relations and improve climate change responses on a global level. Similarly, the G20 summit in 2019 was held in Osaka, and that led to what we call the Osaka Blue Ocean Vision, a multi-stakeholder platform that provides technical assistance for ensuring that we can reduce additional pollution in marine life. Especially, for example, marine plastic litter should be reduced to zero by the year 2050. So first, reduce dependence on fossil fuels, address different forms of pollution. Second, that global well-being must take precedence over individual national priorities. One nation, if you consider, for example, carbon footprints, the carbon footprints of developed nations are significantly higher than those in developing or underdeveloped nations. And to ensure this, number 3, a coordinated response, sharing of technological innovations, and developing integrated policies. What example can you give in this regard? At the moment, for example, one of the most exciting fields in energy is renewable hydrogen. Renewable hydrogen in the years to come is going to gain momentum, should ideally, this is the element that is most commonly available to us. If it can be used as a viable source of energy, it will significantly reduce the problems we are facing. But for this, it is currently attracting about a $300 billion investment across the world. Australia and North Africa are expected to gain the maximum export advantage. Now, once they gain that export advantage because of their natural endowment or because of their technologies, what is the concern? That the equations will gradually, in international relations, will gradually change. Where we are currently dependent, for example, on fossil fuels from the Middle East, that focus now can completely change. Why? Technology altering international relations even through the field of climate change. Fourth, and here you can give n number of examples. Fourth, how does technology help in addressing climate change and improve international relations? Japan, for example, assisting India in the creation of the Delhi Metro, reducing our carbon footprint, at least in the city, and increasing our potential of earning carbon credits. Holland, very famous for windmills, exporting wind power, not only material but also technologies, to Norway, to Denmark, and to Britain. South Korea, providing electronic vehicle technology to India. Japan, at the moment, if you talk about solar energy, for instance, Japan accounts for almost half of global manufacturing of solar cells and solar modules. And when it shares this technology, shares the material with other nations, it has a direct impact on the relations with those countries who are the recipients. So again, on any topic that you're getting, there are n number of areas, n number of dimensions through which the topic can be considered. But keep your focus as simple and as fundamental as possible. Understand the topic correctly. Convey this understanding at 2 different levels. First, in your introduction, and second, in your first body paragraph. In these 2 paragraphs, convey to the examiner, to the reader, that you understand the topic correctly. Second, provide a consistent perspective on the topic. How do you do that? By creating a skeletal structure, by organizing your thoughts and your points before you begin writing. Third, make the essay interesting to read, easy to understand. How do you do that? Use anecdotes, use data, use facts, provide a logical structure more than trying to write like a specialist, more than trying to add more and more technical information or jargon to it. And again, at the conclusion of this lecture, my simple advice, this is a topic that came this year. Some information we've just shared here. Take about 1 hour 30 to 1 hour 40 minutes and please write this down within 1000 to 1200 words in the form of an essay to understand what these elements are. Beyond this, now one area that we've not touched upon is section A of the paper. In fact, let me just take you there. What we've not touched upon is section A over here. Section A over here. These are what you call philosophical or reflective essays. How you approach these essays, they are very simple, they're very interesting also, I would say, to write upon. How you understand them, how you address them, what slight changes you make as compared to the normal essays that we get, this we'll discuss in the next lecture. Thank you very much.